What's good, guys? It's Ilsun 4K, and today we're moving on with my coverage right here on ILTV of X-Men 97, talking about the third episode. Now, I know I'm a little bit late with this, reviewing the third episode so late on, but last week I was down in Kentucky for a few days. Yes, a Jersey boy down in Kentucky, filming some scenes as an extra for an upcoming indie horror film titled The Boy From Below from writer-director Tori Jones, and you gotta check this film out, because even though it's indie, it's got a star-studded cast filled with horror legends, and I can't wait for you to see it. Link in description down below if you want to see that and get some info on it. But, moving forward from there, speaking of scary, this is probably the scariest episode of X-Men, not just for the series so far, but I'm talking overall the series to ever exist, even from the 90s episodes. This was downright terrifying and sinister. Yes, of course, that means Mr. Sinister is in the episode, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. And what's really cool is it isn't very tacky or stupid feeling, everything is very pointful and has meaning. We're moving along onward with the fact that there are now 2 Jean Greys that showed up at the end of the second episode on that cliffhanger note, and it is just incredible to see how they're pushing the whole storyline and storytelling to new depths and heights in ways we've never seen before, while still being familiar to the series that we all grew up with and loved back in the 90s as millennial kids. Really, I'm super excited to talk about this episode, give you a synopsis of everything, give a review, and give my closing thoughts as I always do. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and make sure you stick around for the coverage of episode 3 of X-Men 97, because it's fucking awesome. Now, picking up where the second episode left off, we have the secondary Jean Grey that has shown up at the X-Men Mutant Academy door and is somehow confusing everyone because the other Jean Grey that just had a baby with Cyclops is inside of the X-Men Mutant Academy as well. Nobody really knows what's going on until shortly afterwards, Beast takes a look at both their DNA genetic structures and finds out that the Jean Grey that showed up at the door is actually the primary Jean Grey that has the correct DNA, and the other Jean Grey is something that no one can really explain quite yet. Not until that secondary Jean Grey now goes into the room and starts trying to figure out what's going on as she looks at her baby, that she is contacted by Mr. Sinister, who informs her that she is actually a clone created by him in his lab, and he proceeds to take over her mind and turns her into the Goblin Queen. Yes, we get Goblin Queen Jean Grey instead of the Dark Phoenix for the 900th time, which is very exciting and very refreshing. From there, this evil Jean Grey proceeds to take the Mutant Academy and turns it into a horror funhouse. I mean, it is crazy. Things crawl out of the television and try and attack the mutants. We have a teddy bear that turns into a human being that looks like a possessed version of Charles Xavier, and she proceeds to take the house and actually turn it into like a form of hell, you could say, with goblins and demons flying around, and the X-Men try and fight it, and eventually the primary Jean Grey, who is of course now we know the real Jean Grey, has the house come back to normal and proceeds to ward off the other one. From there, we have Morph come out and tell us basically that he's had to deal with Mr. Sinister in the past. He's haunted by him from a previous experiment, and Sinister's lab is somewhere where Morph can take them. Morph takes them to the lab where they encounter the Goblin Queen Jean Grey, who tries to fight them, but from back in the academy, because the primary Jean Grey is still under problematic stress, proceeds to take the Jean Grey on mentally in the mind and fights her telepathically. It gives us even more awesome surreal visuals where she actually swallows the Goblin Queen Jean Grey and turns her good. Yes, another evil mutant turning good. Anyway, moving forward from there, they go on downward to Sinister's lab, where they find him with Nathan, the baby of Cyclops and Jean Grey, the Goblin Queen Jean Grey. Yeah, this is getting a little confusing, so follow me if you can. We find him putting the baby in some sort of vat of green liquid, because it's always fucking green liquid in these things, and he's trying to somehow take the perfect DNA structure of these two and make himself into the ultimate mutant, because Mr. Sinister, don't forget, is not naturally a mutant. He is a mutant who became a mutant by conducting experiments on mutants back in the 1800s, as Morph informed us early in the episode. From there, we see Cyclops free the baby from the vial, and Mr. Sinister warns him that he's made a grave mistake and vanishes off into the night, as he always does, and we come to find out that Nathan, the baby of Cyclops and Jean Grey again, has some sort of virus from not being allowed to complete whatever process that Mr. Sinister was trying to do, and they need to figure out how to cure it, and that's pretty much how the season episode ends right there. Again, it's really interesting and a little convoluted to follow, but once you watch it, it makes a lot of sense, because the whole 2 Jean Grey things is a little weird, but the whole episode is done great, and you definitely need to check it out. Now, you know, when I was down in Kentucky, I actually brought up that I did the review of this series, and we all started talking about how cool it is that they kind of downgraded the animation to match the old style that we knew. but still updated it to make it more modern, and muscle tones and shadows and things that kind of existed in the old series, but exist a lot better now, not only due to the technology and animation capabilities, but the fact that there is a gigantic, huge Disney budget behind it. I mean, the whole thing looks great. I mean, let's take Mr. Sinister, for example. He looks awesome. I mean, speaking of Mr. Sinister, before I go any further, how cool is it to see this character again? I mean, we have not seen Mr. Sinister anywhere but the comic books since the old X-Men series back in the 90s. I mean, he's made no cameos, he's not anywhere in the live-action universe, and the fact we got him again to be so evil and prevalent in an episode that's basically all his own is really cool. The fact that he looks so awesome is also something that we need to talk about. I mean, his facial structure, the white face with the black outlines around everything, and the red eyes and the red diamond in his forehead. He really looks evil and terrifying like we remember, especially with those crazy-ass sharp teeth. And I think it's really fascinating that we got that little backstory on him from Morph, explaining how he wasn't really a mutant, but a human who became a mutant all the way back in the 1800s, so that way those of us who don't know the guy are familiar with him, because not too many people know anything about Mr. Sinister except A, that he's sinister, and B, he looks awesome. Hands down one of the coolest looking villains out there. I'm totally excited on how they executed him, and the fact that he's got this ulterior motive where he actually tricked Jean Grey, a fake Jean Grey, into having a baby with Cyclops, because he knew that DNA combination would be perfect for whatever sinister plan he has. Sorry, I had to. Really was also like a really cool long-term strategy. And speaking of Jean Grey, let's talk about the fact that we got not one but two Jean Greys, but the fact that we have an evil variant of Jean Grey that is not the Dark Phoenix. We have a nice variant in the Goblin Queen Jean Grey, and she is fantastic and absolutely terrifying as well, with the capabilities that she has being controlled by Mr. Sinister. It's really cool because we have the fact that what looked like it was probably going to be yet another alternate universe time traveling affair for the 900th time in the Marvel movies, because we've been getting a lot of that, alternate universes and fake universes. We got something really refreshing and cool that allowed them to introduce a very nice character and take a character that we're all familiar with and know has the abilities of going a little crazy because they can't control their powers, and make it something really refreshing and nice. One could say they're about to do the time traveling thing at the end of this episode, but that's just part of the X-Men universe, especially Bishop, given that he's, a time traveler. I'm just a huge fan of how everything is going down in this series so far. The writing and everything else is just amazing. This is literally like watching something from my childhood get brought back from the past and traveled into the future and dropped off in front of me. It's like, I can't explain it any other way, as cliche as it sounds, that it's just everything I ever wanted that I didn't know I wanted, just like all of us wanted something like this, but didn't know we wanted it until Disney announced it. And that's why you gotta really applaud all the efforts here from Kevin Feige and everything they're doing to make sure that we get exactly what we deserve from this series, because they are handling with absolute care and making sure that everything that comes out involving this is top-notch, because there's no other way to do it when it comes to the X-Men with how much the hype behind them is built up by this point. I have to say, really, it's just incredible to see what's being done with this IP. I mean, X-Men was a severely neglected IP, as you heard me say in my last video, and you'll probably hear me say in a bunch more videos, but it's finally getting the love and respect that it deserves. Even if it's in an animated sense, they couldn't have picked a better way for it to come back. I mean, X-Men has always been just a little bit of an afterthought to a lot of us, but now it's really prevalent and in our minds and creating a lot of buzz. It's not just my generation that's into this, it's the generations after it, the generations before it. A lot of people remember this, and it's crystal clear that the writing, the animation, and the teams behind all of these departments are just making sure that it's right where it needs to be, hitting that sweet spot that we all know and love and will never forget. And it's really fascinating to see how clever they are, because just when you think they might have forgotten about a storyline issue, such as the end of this episode, which I haven't brought up yet, that Storm meets up with Forge, who's going to help her get her powers back, and they leave it on that cliffhanger, we get double cliffhangers this time around instead of just one. We got the Storm and Forge trying to get Storm's power back thing, and we got Bishop going in the path to try and figure out if he could fix Cyclops and alternate Jean Grey's baby. I mean, it's just building up so much tension and really keeping us on our toes that we never know where it's going to go next. And as you heard me say, we all thought this might have been an alternate universe time-traveling episode already, but instead it was a clone episode with Mr. Sinister being behind it and really giving us a surprise and delight that we needed. I mean, I am just loving everything about this, and Kevin Feige and the teams and everybody trying to make this happen is just giving us everything we need to get excited for the fact that, as you heard me say already, and you will hear me say again, live-action X-Men is coming. We've heard some rumors about who's being cast, but that's a whole other episode for another time. What I really want to know is, how are you liking this so far? Are you really digging where it's going, or do you feel it's just meh? I want to know what you liked about the episode. Are you happy to see Mr. Sinister? What villain would you like to see come back in this? And would you like to see have their own episode? So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you catch me every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, twitch.tv/ILTV4K, streaming and live streaming anything that I can play my hands on, such as Dragon's Dogma 2. Sometimes we do The Witcher 3. We do a lot of fun stuff on there. So make sure you follow me there. Make sure you check out the ILTV Instagram and TikTok. Yes, I have a TikTok. And last but not least, make sure you remember this. It's ILTV, where if it's pop culture, you know it pops up here. You're watching ILTV, where if it's pop culture, you know it pops up here.